Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this white, blue and red or Jeskai colored equipment deck featuring Sokka and Suki as our commander. This 3 mana 3/3 says whenever it or another ally we control enters, we get to attach up to 1 target equipment we control to that creature. And whenever an equipment we control enters, we get to create a 1/1 white ally creature token, which in turn can attach an equipment to it for free, including the one we just played, but it could also be an equipment we already had on the battlefield. So Sokka and Suki is perfect for attaching equipment that are normally pretty expensive to equip, such as Colossus Hammer, very cheap to play, very impactful when equipped, but usually prohibitively expensive to pay for. So now with our commander, we get to attach it for free. So then taking a look at our deck breakdown, I've split up the deck into a few different categories, starting with a bit of mana acceleration, especially helpful if our commander gets answered or moved the first time around and we need to redeploy it while paying the commander tax. So we've got a nice selection of talismans and signets to help pay for it. Then we have a few other creatures that play well with equipment and have good equipment synergy, and we're mostly focusing on card advantage here because our commander already nuts us kind of the free equip, which is normally a category of card I would include in my equipment decks, but now we don't need to focus on it as much, and instead we still want a bit of other card advantage, especially in creature form, so we don't run out of creatures to equip in the first place, which can sometimes be a problem with equipment decks. And then we've got various tutor effects, usually 2 mana, to search up whichever equipment we would like, especially helpful when we have a nice selection of swords that grant protection from different colors, so then we can get whichever sword fits the matchup. Then we also have a few removal spells, some very cheap instants, as well as a few equipment like Chainsaw and Assimilation Aegis that we might also want to tutor up if we need some removal. And then we have a few equipment that also double up as creatures. Either they have the reconfigure mechanic, so we can play them as a creature normally, but they can still be equipped to another creature, including a 1/1 ally token. And some of these also spawn some other token alongside them, using the living weapon or for Mirrodin mechanic. So these can also give us additional creatures in case we run out or in case our commander doesn't stick the landing. And then we've got our other typical equipment, some offensive options, including the various swords, and then we also have some defensive options, giving hexproof, shroud, or indestructible, and haste can also be very useful to make sure we can immediately get attacking. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration, Mox Opal makes sense in an artifact deck as we can easily enable Metalcraft. Could also run some additional artifact lands, but those are sometimes dangerous, especially the ones that aren't indestructible, since they might be taken out by opposing artifact removal, which our opponent will know to keep in hand if they see this commander. Then there's the various signets in the Jeskai colors, as well as the Ironcrag, which can turn into an equipment if we play a legendary creature, so that has additional synergy in the deck. The MacLeod can give our artifacts a 1 mana discount, also very helpful, and then a 2/2 flyer is still a fine target for our various equipment. And then Sokka Swordmaster could also be a fun commander, but of course running Sokka and Suki gives us a few more options in the different colors, but this is also very good, giving us a discount when casting our equipment spells, and then can also attach equipment to it for free. And then Dalakos gives all our equipped creatures both flying and haste, and can also tap for double colorless to help pay for equipment and equip abilities. And then our other creatures include the Earth Kingdom Protectors, one of the few other allies in the deck, so this can also attach an equipment to it for free when it enters with our commander in play, but more importantly we can also sacrifice it to make another ally indestructible until end of turn, so it can protect our commander. Mother of Runes, one of the best ways to protect other creatures, including itself. Then there's SRAM to draw extra cards when we cast equipment spells. The Outfitter, another ally, and also gives our equipped creatures +1/+1, and whenever an equipped creature we control dies, including the various 1/1 tokens, we get to draw a card. Then Apherion is one of the more synergistic creatures in this deck, as we now get to make an extra token copy of any equipment that enters a battlefield under our control, and then we get to attach it to a 1/1 ally token right away if we control Sokka and Suki. The token copy does go away end of turn, but we get immediate value, especially in the case of the various swords, if we can attack right away. Then there's Akiri, which can also draw a card if we attack with an equipped creature, can also protect our equipped creatures by unattaching the equipment and paying a white mana. Astor gets to look at the top 7 to find an equipment, and also helps us equip things for 1 mana going forward in case we want to move things around. And then Gilgamesh can enter and immediately look at the top 6 cards of our library, putting any number of equipments from them into play attached to Gilgamesh, and can do so again when it attacks. And then Nahiri has affinity for equipment, so can usually play it on the cheap, and then when an equipped creature we control attacks, we get to exile the top card of our library, can play it this turn. If it's an equipment, we even get to play it for free. And then our tutor effects include Open the Armory as a sorcery. We've got Stoneforge Mystic, which is the best one, since it can also potentially pay 2 mana to put an equipment from our hand onto the battlefield. So this can also cheat some of our more expensive creatures into play that have a living weapon, for instance. And then a Cloud Midgar Mercenary can also maybe double any triggers from equipment that are attached to it, so also very synergistic with the various swords. Then Fighter class, usually just 2 mana to get an equipment, but we could also level it up. And then Kellen has an adventure to find an equipment, and can also play a 2/2 double strike later, so also makes for a nice target for these various equipments. And then we've got our removal spells at 1 mana, Swords to Plowshares, Galvanic Blast, another Metalcraft card alongside Lightning Bolt. And then there's Chainsaw, dealing 3 to a creature when it enters. Rebel Salvo has affinity for equipment, so can often cast it for a single red to deal 5 to a creature or planeswalker, also removes Indestructible. And the Assimilation Aegis can exile an opposing creature when it enters, and can even turn an equipped creature into that same creature, assuming it wasn't a commander that got sent back to the command zone. And then we've got our kind of living weapon and reconfigure creatures. Lion Sash also offers a bit of graveyard hate if we need access to that in certain matchups. The Reality Chip is one of the better ones to immediately attach to an ally token, as we now get to start playing stuff off the top of the deck. Lizard Blades gives a double strike. We've got a Cryptic Code to make our creatures unblockable, comes attached to a cloaked 2/2 creature with Ward 2. The War Whip comes attached to a Rebel token, giving double strike and also discounts or equip abilities by 1. There's the Arsenal, giving +2/+2 for each artifact we control, so that can also get pretty large, comes attached to a hero token. And then Batterskull, giving +4/+4 Vigilance and Lifelink, comes attached to a 0/0 Germ token. So when we play it, we can still decide to keep the Batterskull attached to the Germ token and then have a separate 1/1 ally token, or we can decide to stack the trigger from the Germ first and then have it attached to a 1/1 token if we want a 5/5 with Vigilance and Lifelink instead. And then both Batterskull and the Cryptic Code we can also return back to our hand, maybe replay them, and once again maybe trigger our commander to make additional 1/1 tokens. And then our other equipment include Basilisk Collar for Death Touch and Lifelink, also very good when attached to a random 1/1 token, since we don't mind trading it away with Death Touch. There's Colossus Hammer, of course, a more expensive one to normally equip, giving +10/+10, making the creature lose flying. The Giant Craft Helm, still pretty good, giving +4/+4. Shadow Spear for Trample and Lifelink, can also remove Hexproof and Indestructible if needed. Then Plate Armor does get a 1 mana discount on Arena, but I would still play it for 3, giving +3/+3 and Ward 1, and can often equip it for free. Then there's Black Blade Reforged, scaling with the number of lands we control. Then Umezawa's Jite is a relatively recent addition to Arena, very powerful once we get a few charge counters going. Then there's Underill to make additional spirit tokens when we attack. And then I've got 4 of the different protection swords, since I didn't have room for all of them, but of course want to make sure I have protection from every color on at least one of the swords. So black and green for Feast and Famine, if it hits them they discard a card, we untap our lands. Fire and Ice is blue and red, if we hit them we deal 2 damage and draw a card. Forge and Frontier, exile the top 2, we get to play an extra land and play the cards from exile. And then Light and Shadow, gain 3 and return a creature from our graveyard to our hand. And then Embercleave, of course, for double strike and trample, especially nice if we're going wide with ally tokens to help discount it. And then our more defensive equipment included Dragonfire Blade, giving +2/+2 and hexproof from monocolored, also very cheap to attach to a multicolored creature. There's a Lava Spur Boots for 1 extra power, haste, and ward 1, whereas a Lightning Greaves for 0 mana can equip for haste and shroud. Now do keep in mind with shroud we cannot put more equipment on that same creature, but usually that's not a problem since we can move it onto a different ally token first and then still maybe move additional equipment onto Sokka and then move it back. And then there's the Swiftfoot Boots, which fixes that problem with hexproof, but it is 1 mana to equip. And then Celestial Armor we can flash in, giving 2 extra power and flying, and also indestructible and hexproof until end of turn. Champion's Helm is +2/+2, and if the equipped creature is legendary, it also gains hexproof. And then Mithril Coat we can also flash in for indestructible, being indestructible itself. And then the mana base is mostly just the channel lands for additional utility. Could also consider Arena of Glory for haste, especially useful for Gilgamesh, but otherwise not incredibly helpful for our various equipment. And then we also have a nice set of Surveil lands, plus the Shock lands in every color, which we can also access with our various fetch lands. Otherwise, of course, Command Tower and Cavern to name Human to make our humans uncounterable. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Helga, so banned to ramp. My hand is reasonable. Can fetch Mountain, turn to Outfitter, or we can start with the Giant Craft Helm. Now the boots are tempting too, to better protect Sokka. So what's my sequencing gonna look like with Firion? I think we might actually want to get Firion down first. And then now I can protect it with the Greaves, and then we want to try and combine Giant Craft with Sokka and Suki to immediately attack with some giant ally tokens. Opponent ramping with Overlord after playing up the Beanstalk. Like the olden days in Standard. Protection from red and green should be pretty effective. I'll get a Steam Vents. Play Sokka and Suki. They can suit up the Lightning Greaves. Then play Giant Craft Helm, which gets copied by Firion. And we get to suit up both tokens with Giant Craft Helm and attack for a healthy 16 damage. Do I want to move anything? Not particularly. Next turn I could maybe go for the sword, equip a token, and immediately give it haste if needed. Opponent's gonna take an extra turn since they need to come up with a solution here. Hopefully it's not Farewell, another Time Warp instead. Alright, so back-to-back extra turns while drawing off up the Beanstalk, so they're still pulling ahead. The Overlord's also gonna come into play here. Doesn't matter if we play the sword, since we can just attack past everyone. Opponent fetching down to 3. Now Florahedron. 2 mana left. I mean, if the sword resolves, it's pretty much game over. So that seems like a fine starting point. Get to make 2 tokens, both equipped with Sword of Forge and Frontier, having haste thanks to Firion. And I could move the Greaves just in case, because I could still have Swords to Plowshares to exile my protection from green creature. And these can all attack. Two mana. For a Librarian, that one's blue, so it can block my protection from green, but turns out I have 2 of them, so one of them will go through. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Chandra, Awakened Inferno, so mono-red control. My hand is reasonable. Could use some cheaper equipment, since it's going to be a while before we can play Embercleave. But I do like the Talisman and eventually Gilgamesh as something to go over the top. So wouldn't mind another ramp artifact. And then any equipment, especially that boosts toughness to maybe protect Sokka. Opponent with the currency converter can also provide a nice bit of value. And now Guardian Idol. Opponent's also going to be ramping, of course. Alright, now with the protectors, we've got something to maybe protect our commander, as well as maybe go wide for Embercleave. So that seems worth a try. Talisman makes white. And then next turn we can maybe attack and Embercleave. Outfitter also an ally. There's not many outside of the avatar sets, but this is one of them from Jumpstart. Magda is next. And our opponent's gonna commit a crime. Okay, I can still attack and Embercleave. And then once we have Embercleave in play, I can maybe suit up the Outfitter. So I'm gonna submit 0 here. So we can hit for 8. And next turn I can cast Gilgamesh and hopefully find more equipment. Opponent with an Iron Crag. Looks like they have some artifact removal. Fiery Confluence, yeah, that's too bad. Blowing up my artifacts as well as my token. Although Cryptic Coat was a good draw. So I can play Cryptic Coats. And we got a Sulfur Falls here, so I'll just attack, and then can still play the Outfitter if I'd like. Opponent could play Chandra, wipe the board. I would still get to draw a card, and then Gilgamesh is not a bad follow-up. Especially if we hit some haste equipment. Ooh, that's a swing and a miss. Oh, that's unfortunate. Chandra's gonna plus.
No pressure.
And a Fable. So our opponent can chump Gilgamesh to protect Chandra. Cryptic Code is 2 mana to return. So we won't be able to make Gilgamesh unblockable. But yeah, I guess we'll make them chump, and then I've got a few options here. Opponent uses Converter. Found a plate armor this time. And then maybe we play Sokka and Suki, and then we can have them suit up the Cryptic Codes. So we've got an unblockable creature to maybe pressure Chandra. Could even move the plate armor here, to be fair. Opponent dealing 4 to Gilgamesh. So they must have a way to finish it off. And Bone Crusher. Okay, but Sokka and Suki should be able to finish off Chandra. And they also provide a pretty fast clock. So it's possible I'm better off just going face with their opponent at 14. Yeah, that makes sense. Attack for 9. We've got hexproof, so I don't really see a reason to move it back. Could move a plate armor back. Nah, let's just pass. I'm at 18, so shouldn't be in danger of dying. So yeah, opponent needs another artifact removal spell to maybe get rid of the cryptic codes, but I can pay 2 mana to return it back to my hand. Another Chandra. So yeah, opponent had some decent answers along the way, including the Fiery Confluence. Gilgamesh didn't have a great hit first time around, but eventually the Voltron style of gameplay just lines up quite favorably against the Super Friends playstyle, since they'll struggle to get rid of a huge threat. Take 6, could jump. I guess there's no edict effects for me to be worried about. I'll level up talent. Chandra makes mana.
You're going down.
And a Sweltering Suns as their last card. That's fine. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Grist the Hunger Tide, black-green insect. This hand's missing actual white mana to cast most of my spells, so I'll take a mulligan. This seems a little bit better. We will have to be a little strategic here with how we deploy our commander, because I don't want to have it instantly removed without any other creatures to suit up my various equipment. So I might have to wait until we can play our commander and immediately play another equipment afterwards. It does help that Lizard Blades has the reconfigure mechanic, so it can also function as a creature. Now Glissa. Can destroy enchantments. Found Mother of Runes, although sadly cannot play it alongside Talisman. So, yeah, if I just tap out for Mother of Runes, that's an option. Could play Talisman, could even go for Plate Armor. And then next turn immediately suit it up, although it's only Ward 1, so it's not necessarily going to be good enough. I think I like Mother of Runes, even though it doesn't use up all my mana. And then maybe next turn we can reevaluate. So Glissel's already going to draw an extra card each turn. Need to try and stop that. Grist comes down and is going to plus. And the Lunar Elves as well. So Mother of Runes is safe for the time being. So if I were to play a Sokka and Suki, it could survive. Mother of Runes can protect, assuming they don't have more instant speed removal. Otherwise I could -2 and then still have a removal spell left. The alternative here would be going Talisman plus one of my 2-drops. I think I prefer just playing my commander, and then next turn we'll be able to generate a few tokens by playing the equipment out. Still waiting for a slightly more impactful equipment to help us get past all these blockers. Could technically also block with Sokka and then give Pro Black to ambush Glissa. But of course that runs into instant speed removal. So our opponent's gonna attack first. So I could make the play I described, where we block and give protection, and then hope they don't have instant speed removal left. I don't actually hate it. So I'll block first so we at least don't let them draw. Okay, so we get to eat Glissa. Now Grist could finish off Mother of Runes, but that's not the end of the world. Alright, Outfitter also an ally. So we have a couple options. Might be able to get Metalcraft online as well. So let's try that. I think I prefer Lizard Blades over Outfitter for now. And then attack Grist. Our opponent seems to have a big removal spell, Toxic Deluge, to wipe the board. Alright, at least we still have our equipment and our Lizard Blades. So it could have been worse. Command Beacon put Grist back in hand, so they could still cast it. Okay. Makes another insect. Yeah, let's just send the Lizard Blades. Opponent might be incentivized to chump already. And then first play my commander. Suit up the plate armor. And then play Outfitter. So now if one of my creatures dies, I get to draw a card at least. And a Long Goodbye gets around the ward ability, they don't have to pay for it. Back to the command zone, still get to draw. And Feast and Famine is the perfect sword in this matchup. So that could end the game pretty quickly. Unearth back a Glissa. And plus Grist. Okay, so 7 mana to replay this is probably not worth it right now. But I can play the sword, equip the sword, and then still untap my lands afterwards, assuming I attack my opponent. And then may as well add the plate armor. Play talisman first, maybe. So this would just be a lethal attack. 16 exactly. While untapping my lands the first time, I could also channel Crucible before untapping my lands again. But this is game. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Firelord Azula, so can expect a decent amount of removal. Stoneforge Mystic is quite good, missing some cheaper equipment. Don't have any ramp to get up to 5 and 6 mana necessarily. So we're mostly keeping based on the strength of Stoneforge, which I'm not sure about. I can get protection from blue and red. Still leaves black as a potential answer. So I think I can do better. This seems a little bit better. Especially the Rebel Salvo as an answer to Azula. And then I think I do want to play Mother of Runes first chance I get. So our opponent specifically needs a 1 mana removal spell to get rid of it. And they don't have one. Now I can afford to play Jite. And then still probably going to go for Sokka next turn. Well, their opponent is keeping up counterspell mana potentially. Underill also an option. Would be better if we already have Sokka in play. So yeah, removal we can beat with Mother of Runes, counterspells would still be effective. And I'm not going to want to equip Mother of Runes and attack, because then she can get removed. So I think Sokka. Hope they don't have a counterspell. Azula does play better with actual removal spells as opposed to counter spells. So that worked out. Pass a turn. And then hope to get an attack in next turn. Because getting the first counters going on GT are usually the most important. Once we get one or two, it becomes a lot easier to keep attacking. As we can pump up our creature or shrink down opposing creatures. So they could already play Azula. We do have an answer. Opponent's gonna keep on ramping for now. Okay, so step one, probably attack with Sokka. See what's up. Possible they try and flash in a creature here, who knows. Okay, that works. We get our GT counters. And then try Underill. There are ways for them to potentially give Azula haste right away. Equip Underill. So now Lightning Bolt with a -1/-1 could also answer Azula. And there she is. No haste just yet. Alright, so it feels like we're in control of this game. And yeah, could start with GT Lightning Bolt play I mentioned. Could also play the Arsenal, but I think we need to deal with our commander if I get the chance. And now I can still respond to a protection spell with an extra GT activation. That works. And attack. So now a sweeper could still maybe get us, but we have Arsenal as a decent follow-up. Do I need to move any equipment around? I don't think so. I guess I could put it on a spirit. And pass. Another talisman. No board wipe. So what's the worst that could happen here? Like Aetherize, bounce all attacking creatures. A bit of a stretch. Still seems like a fine attack to me. I guess a Gear Hulk getting back Magma Opus may be a reason to start with Lion Sash. So now I could even exile the Magma Opus. And go to attacks. That's going to be the Librarian for 4, which I can just Rebel Salvo before blockers. Or, better yet, let's just use the GT while it's a 1/1. Yeah, this card was good enough to be banned in Modern, still banned to this day, so certainly does not lack power level. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Tourach, mono black. The protection from white could also be relevant. I do like Giant Craft Helm, got some acceleration, Cloud can get protection from black. So I'll try it. So against the discard deck, I just want to try to empty my hand as soon as possible, pretty much. Protectors could be decent too, as a way to protect Sokka. So next turn I can go Talisman into Protectors. If they have a targeted discard spell, they're probably taking Cloud if I had to guess. So then I'm not going to be able to get my protection from black. Yep. Still go for Talisman into Protectors, and then next turn Sockeye into Giant Craft, immediately suited up. And Waste Not, of course, very powerful as well in this deck. Could get Islands, might want double red at some point, so I'll get Steam Vents. And then they cannot play Tourach just yet, unless they're holding on to a Dark Ritual. So then I can wait to maybe Galvanic Blast it before it picks up any +1 counters. But if they can make me discard 2 here, I'll be on empty. And yeah, our opponents got the Dark Ritual, so now they can play Tourach and empty my hand. So that's pretty unlucky. So, cannot blast in response. The protection from white is now also going to be very effective. Yeah, most of the fast mana is gone in the format, but Dark Ritual will still get you sometimes. Now here I am a mana short of casting, so that's unfortunate. And I just don't have any plays whatsoever because of the protection. So yeah, not much we can do. Tourach attacks. Can block it. And with Sanitarium they can also force discards with Waste Not. Deluge for 5 to wipe the board, so at least that will get rid of Tourach. Protectors is not going to help here, unfortunately. But they can still try. So untap land for Nahiri would still be appreciated. Firion I'll still play, but doesn't do much by itself. And Liliana can also Edict now. Or plus. Gonna get rid of Firion first. And a Bandit's Talent gets Nahiri. Yeah, so we're on empty. Now we draw the mana source, but it might be too little too late already. Opponent's just too far ahead on resources. Yeah, the Dark Ritual was effective, although to be fair, they could have had any Mind Rot effect there, and it would have been good. Just the fact that their commander has protection from white gives them a pretty serious advantage. Now, equipment are typically reasonable against removal-heavy decks, since we get to keep the equipment in play. It just so happens that we didn't have time to play any of them before they got discarded. And this is going to end the game pretty quickly. Could replay Sockeye, immediately gets removed by Liliana, so there's not much I can do here. Can play this at instant speed in response to the plus, but still not all that impressive. Indestructible doesn't help against sacrifice effects.
You won't be outsmarting me.
Tiny Bones activates, and we just lose on the spot. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we've descended into the Hell queue up against Ugin, Eye of the Storms. Pretty powerful commander, at least my equipment, most of them are safe. So, what do we think of this hand? Still need to pick up a couple extra lanes. The protection, of course, not super relevant, but I'll try it. Can protect with Haste and Shroud, so that helps. Soul Guide Lantern is fine. And Land is good too. So, Shadow Spear for Trample. Does complement our Black Blade Reforged nicely, so sure. So against the colorless Ugin deck, I might be better off just playing Black Blade Reforged and immediately suiting up Sokka next turn. Lizard Blades my opponent can still exile, so that one's not necessarily safe. So I'll go for Black Blade. Next turn immediately equip it. And our opponent's gonna need to ramp. Solar Transformer. So not expecting Ugin yet next turn. So I can afford to play my commander. And then next turn we can maybe go for the protection and the Shadow Spear. I do miss out on some card draw triggers potentially. But yeah, next turn they can cast Ugin. So I need to have the protection in place. So I can first equip a token and then equip Sokka. Opponent takes 7. And make sure they cannot exile my commander. And then next turn we can try to stack more equipment onto it. Maybe give it double strike. Opponent actually had the Warping Whale, but not good enough to answer my commander. Could have made a Scion to jump with, I suppose. And now Ugin is gonna plus. Still probably have to take out Ugin to prevent him from setting up some bigger Eldrazi. Could go SRAM plus Lizard Blade still. Although maybe I should save the Lizard Blades for a turn where I'm guaranteed to equip it. And for now go SRAM plus Sword. Because I can give SRAM haste. Sure. Get to draw. Can also give the token haste. But we want to finish off Ugin, so 9 damage is enough. And then I'll move the Lightning Greaves back onto Sokka. Okay, so if they can replay it, they can now exile my token, but that's fine. SRAM might be gone. As long as I get to keep my commander. Protectors is an ally, so that can also suit something up. Tezzeret can tutor up another 1-mana artifact. And get some Mox Opal, nothing left to exile. Okay, so once again have a couple options. Let's go for Akiri, and then Protectors. Equip the sword, and give Protectors haste. Start by attacking. See what we get off Akiri. Maybe I should actually finish off Tezzeret because it can untap the obelisk. Alright, fine. So I guess I didn't get to draw Akiri that way. It's a bit of value lost. That's alright, we'll play Shadow Spear. And then I can move the Lightning Greaves again. Okay, still good enough. 11 mana to now cast Ugin. Gotta hope they don't have some other Eldrazi that can take over. Mightstone can answer 1 creature. And goes for Akiri. Sure. Ornithopter's fine. Okay, Batterskull's not bad either. So I don't think I can guarantee lethal this turn, even with trample and double strike. So I probably want to trample on protectors so we guarantee that it connects. Or I can just play a hasty Batterskull Smash and see what happens. Still gets moved onto the Germ. Opponent takes it. Find land GT, can play the land. And then move Greaves back. And that's probably it. Cannot play the GT. Alright, let's hope they don't have some Emrakul or Ulamog to decimate my board. Ugin's back, that's fine. Gets rid of the Germ, Batterskull persists. And yeah, next turn we should have it with the Lizard Blades. Their own Shadow Spear. Alright, so they are exiling a lot of stuff. So Batterskull's 5 mana to equip, but I want Lizard Blades to play 2 to reconfigure, and then I can still get Shadow Spear as well. Although I have to be careful here with my Lightning Greaves, because that gives Shroud, so gotta move those first. And then I can reconfigure, attach to a creature we control, and then Shadow Spear. And then we're fine to attack. Alright, sweet. So yeah, Ugin exiled a lot of our stuff, but just not the important parts. And the Lightning Greaves were enough to protect Sokka and Suki. So that's an attack for 18 trample, still 16 going through. Fighter class also probably could have found some flying equipment, so options are plenty. Our opponent seems to have disconnected. But yeah, as I mentioned in the Chandra matchup, these Planeswalker decks will often struggle against Voltron commanders if their removal is mostly sorcery speed, and they don't have sweepers big enough to get rid of it, then our commander can sort of just take over. That being said, if our opponent did have Emrakul, the Promised End, or what have you in hand, they might have had enough mana to cast it here, and then my board could have gotten demolished. But yeah, there we go. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Kuja, Black-Red Wizards. So protection from black and white could be useful. Got some early ramp in case my commander gets removed. So I'll try it. Start by fetching a Surveil land. And blue-white seems fine. Mostly looking for more equipment. Mechanauts could be useful too, since we've got a handful of relatively cheap artifacts that can become even cheaper. If I play Mechanaut now, there's a decent chance it gets removed. So I think I start with Signet, and then next turn I get to go Mechanaut. Talisman pays for itself. And then we can play some more stuff out. Opponent with a Dark Confidant to provide them with additional card advantage. So that's a good one. Alright, so play Mechanauts. Play Talisman. And then I could play Sword, or I could play Reality Chip. I guess we'll go with a Sword here. And then next turn we have options. Happy to trade for Dark Confidant if they offer. Opponent's got Other Planes with Dark Ritual into Kuja. A mana left. Mox Amber, 2 mana left. So yeah, this is a very explosive opening. Play with Fire the Mechanaut. At least I've got a creature to return with a sword. And GT's pretty powerful too. So play my commander. Immediately suit up the sword. And then probably prioritize the GT. Opponent drawing the mage with Dark Confidence. Possible I move the GT onto Sokka and Suki next turn before attacking. With the reality chip immediately getting equipped, it also lets me play off the top right away. And the life gain is going to be important, since we're going to take a lot of incidental damage from these wizards. Kuja is now also going to transform. So doubling the damage from wizards. Yeah, I think we could consider moving the GT, so I don't just lose the token if I attack with it. At 5 toughness, with protection from black, it's going to be difficult for the opponent to remove my commander. In fact, murder my 1/1. And then I get to attack pretty much unopposed, unless they want to jump with a mage. Which they do. I still get the counters on GT. So I can still take out Dark Confidence. As well as a 1/1 or 0/1 token here. Which seems important. I guess I can play Reality Chip first, see what's on top, and then reconsider. Alright, Cloud's a good one. Sure. So what do we like? We already have pro black, so maybe want pro red as well. Either Fire and Ice or Forge and Frontier. Let's go for maybe Fire and Ice. Alternatively, can just get an answer for the opponent's commander. Something like Assimilation Aegis comes to mind. Could go for Lifelink from Batterskull. So we have quite a few options. I think I like the Fire and Ice here. Land on top, so I still get to play it. And then... yeah, I think I do take out another token. Cloud could also get additional triggers off Umezawa's GT. Thanks to the ability here. But we have to be careful. Opponent can deal a lot of damage here with a transformed Kuja. Immolator's next. Could take out Cloud. Think I got a chump here. Could also chump with Clouds. Either way, Immolator can finish off the other creature. I guess I'll chump here, keep Cloud for now. Otherwise we would be taking 8. Okay, opponent's got a couple cards in hand. I think I start by playing Sword, and yeah, opponent's gonna just scoop it up here. Play Sword, equip Sokka and Suki, make some more 1/1s in the process. And then if I get to attack, I not only get to return a creature, triggering 3 life, but also deal 2 damage, draw cards, GT can also gain me more life. So it's kind of a cascading effect that's not going to be beneficial for my opponent. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Iroh, Grant, Lotus. So can expect a decent amount of interaction. This hand's alright. The boots for Ward and Haste can be useful if our opponent's on a more controlling build. And then we've got 2 relevant protections. So I think I will actually play Well, do I? I don't have to play Boots on 1 since I don't have anything planned on turn 2. So maybe I can afford to just surveil here. Colossus Hammer is definitely a good one. So then the question is, do I play the hammer and the boots? I think that's reasonable. Because then as soon as I play Sokka and Suki, I can immediately equip the Colossus Hammer. If our opponent keeps up counter spell mana, it becomes a little trickier. Can play another Sokka here. 1 less to cast. And then I can still attach something for free. So that would still be a good use of my mana. Could also play the whip and then equip boots for free. So that's actually still decent if our opponent's keeping up removal. It's not the explosive equip hammer for free, but I'm keeping those for later. Opponent with a memory lapse for now. Okay. So they're just trying to buy themselves more time. Do we send it back? Let's try again, I guess. Equip the boots. Because if I can draw a land next turn, I could play Sokka, equip hammer for free, and then still give it haste. I guess I don't even need a land for it, thanks to the discount from whip. Opponent gives me a fish to draw 2. And do have ward 1. Cathartic Pyre my token, tapping out. So yeah, this is a great window for Sokka. Yeah, I think I still go for this one first. And this is an attack for 15. Bones at 1, so good luck fetching or tapping Chivalry for colored mana. Opponent goes digging with Expressive Iteration. Alright, so we get to see this Jeskai equipment deck in action. Definitely not the most powerful commander that comes to mind when building an equipment deck. Something like Cloud letting you tutor up whatever you want in every matchup is probably a bit more reliable. That being said, the free equip from Sokka and Suki is certainly very helpful, especially when it comes to some of the more expensive equipment such as Colossus Hammer, so that can give you some very explosive starts. The deck naturally goes wide and gives you those free equips, so it does let you maybe cut some of the typical cards you would include in an equipment deck that help you equip things on the cheap and instead focus more on the actual equipment, so there's still a little bit of a change of pace there. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.